For Group E questions, to choose any two from lectures 9, 10, or 11. Once again, I have my notes. So for the first one, I chose question 3A from lecture 9. That's 3A from lecture 9, and that was on Mercury. The main ideas here were Mercury is airless and dense. It's covered in craters. Its rotation is locked to its orbit in a 2-to-3 ratio. And despite being very hot, there's actually water, ice, and deep craters at its poles. Mercury is the closest planet to the sun. One thing that I found interesting in this video was the fact that it is named after, associated with, the Roman messenger of the gods who had wings on his shoes and was extremely fast. This comparison makes sense since Mercury, the planet, moves pretty quickly, visibly changing its position relative to the background stars even after a single night. In 1639, Italian astronomer Giovanni Zuppi used a telescope to observe Mercury, not Mars, Mercury, and he discovered that it undergoes a complete cycle of phases over time, just like the moon. The only way this can happen is if Mercury orbits the sun and not Earth, which strengthens a specific contemporary theory of the solar system, especially for that time, which was heliocentrism. During that time, it was a big debate when Giovanni Zuppi. So this was all relevant to the course because specifically in these lectures, we started talking about the planets and their different characteristics. Like Mercury, I know I wrote down in one of my notes from my lecture guide was the fact that it was the closest planet, making it the hottest planet to the sun. And yeah, that's it. For the next question, I chose 3C from lecture 10, 3C lecture 10. That was the Saturn crash course. The main idea here was Saturn is a gas giant and has a broad set of rings made of ice particles. Moons create gaps in the rings via their gravity, and Saturn has dozens of moons, including Titan, which is as big as Mercury and has a thick atmosphere and lakes of methane, Enceladus, which has an undersurface ocean and eruptions of water geysers. And though we don't know for sure, it's possible, however, either or both moons may support life. Some more facts: Saturn is the second largest planet, but is the least dense. In fact, this is something I found interesting. If there were ever a bathtub big enough, Saturn would float in it. That's how dense or not dense it is. Another fact that I found interesting was the fact that Saturn's rings are not solid. If they were, they would get torn apart since the inner edge would orbit the planet way faster than the outer edge. They're actually made up of countless small chunks of very nearly pure water ice. Each particle orbits the planet independently. One contemporary theory which Saturn relates to is the nebular hypothesis theory. So we can use the surface particles of Saturn to disprove this theory. The reason for this is because the particles that make up the rings would collect space dust and get dull, similar to dust on Earth and how it dulls our furniture.